Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reach the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Leicester Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there. How the devil are we all? It's Friday night, and I know you're used to us doing the preview show on tonight. That's coming tomorrow because I've got a very special guest this evening. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Catch us Facebook, Twitter, on YouTube at Leicester. Let me teeth in Leicester Till I Die TV. I should know this by now, shouldn't I? Please give us a subscribe, a like, and share the video if you can. And if you are listening to this in the podcast form, and we are on all the major podcast platforms, thank you very much. It is an In Conversation With, and tonight it's Jonathan Morgan.
On YouTube and your favourite podcast platform, this is Leicester Till I Die TV. In Conversation With. Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
Leicester royalty. Good evening, Jonathan. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thanks. And how are yourself?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. Still trying to cling on to the dreams that we could win a European trophy, but it's by the fingertips at the moment after last night. But thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I always get nervous before I do these, but I'm more nervous tonight because of who you are and what you've done, sort of thing. It's,
thank you.
I'm sat on a commode here if we panned out, let's talk about yourself, because what you were sort of, as we say, the manager at Leicester City Women throughout a big change in that. But starting out, what got you into football? Oh, we've lost your sound. You're muted. Let me. Can you hear me? No, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
We've got you now. Yes. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
I can't hear you at all.
Okay. This is going well. No, is that any better at all?
Shall I leave and come back in?
Yeah, leave and come back in. That usually works, guys. It's the turn it off and turn it on again. It's a good start. It's always going to happen. I'll tell you what, modern technology, I'm glad I'm coming at the end of it, because I'll tell you what, put me in charge of a driverless car and it'll end up in a wall somewhere. Oh dear, it's one of those nights. How are we feeling? Let's see if we can get him back again. Hello, how are we? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have them there. Literally, just as you introduced me, just cut off.
Gremlins, I tell you, this is why we have this is why we have kids, because certainly when you get to my age, it's can't get this to work. Oh, Dad, have you read the instructions? You know,
I know that feeling.
Well, things can only get better, as they say. But now tell us how did you get into football itself?
Yeah, so I mean, like every young lad, played football as a kid. Went through the leagues in the Leicestershire County leagues, and I think my pinnacle of football was when I got to Hinckley United. Sort of semi-pro back then it was the National League North. Now I think it's the Vanarama North, but yeah. So I think that was sort of always my platform in football, and it was something I enjoyed. Played until I was about 25, 26, 27 probably latest, but had to give it up due to the management commitments of when I took over the women's.
Oh, right. So you did that at the same time?
There was an overlap for 2 or 3 years, but I also had a child very young at the age of 19, and it was so Marcus, and obviously what was happening is that with coaching and playing, like your weekends are gone, Saturday playing, Sunday obviously managing, and before you know it, you weren't spending any time with family and stuff. So I think we made that conscious decision I was never going to make it as a footballer, so see what happened as a manager.
Oh yeah, I mean, how did at that point, obviously the women's football wasn't as big as it is now, and it's finally getting the recognition it deserves, and obviously the coverage. But I mean, did you apply for the job? Did you see it advertised? How did it come about?
No, to be honest, I just sort of stumbled into it. I think it was around about 7-8 years ago where I took over Leicester City Reserves. My sister she went through the Centre of Excellence, it was called then, and I think when she just turned 16, nobody wanted anything to do with Leicester City Women's, and the previous regime they just disappeared, and basically it was literally folding. And my dad, being my dad, obviously he was obviously a very keen sponsor of the women's setup back then, predominantly because my sister was playing. So it sort of just was handed to him by default, really. It was no one else really stepped forward, no one else showed an interest, and he took over. And he just asked me for some help originally. Originally, I was actually the reserve team manager, and he had no one that could take them. So I used to joke around with my mates, living my football manager dream as a young kid, as a young sort of adult, to be honest. And it just went from strength to strength, and you get the bug for it. And I saw all the work my dad was putting in, and then obviously my sister was playing, and my other sister Jay came on board as well. And it became just very much a family-run business. And when we took over the club, it was in significant debt from the previous regime, and we turned that debt into profit within a couple of years. And that's obviously very difficult back then when there was literally no investment into the women's game. And we grew the club from, I think, literally 1.5 teams, around about 20 people were at the club, to now by the time that Leicester took over, by the time Leicester obviously brought it off us, we had over 200 girls.
Wow. I mean, like you say, we've all been there. We've all lived that dream. When you've got kids, I went along. I used to help coach my kids' team. When I say I helped coach, it was very very basic. But I did sort of the FA Part 1, which was like what I used to call the enthusiastic dad level. And, but the main manager used to step down for the last 2 games and let myself and another coach sort of do it, and we all turned into for that 90 odd minutes or 60 minutes, however long we played, we were Brian Clough. But it was, like you say, it was very much a family affair, and you actually own the club.
Yeah, so myself and my dad, we saw the bigger picture of the women's sport. And we took a gamble and we just incorporated it. Leicester City Women's Football Club, it was called. We both became owners. My sister became the general manager, Jade, and obviously Holly was still playing as captain. But Holly then helped support the youth setup, and she became very heavily involved in running the youth as well, which obviously was a big reason why the youth are where they are today. So that was something that we're really proud of, and it was a family-run business. We weren't ashamed to. We had a lot of, I can say, enemies over the years, people who didn't really think I think people didn't really see the work we were doing behind the scenes and how hard we were working. But I think obviously, naturally, when something gets good, people then start to think they can do it better. But we had it, and I think, like I say, within a 5-year period, we got 3 promotions and up to the WSL. So we obviously made the right decisions and made the right choices from a business point of view to get us there. And
whereabouts at this point were you sort of training and playing?
Everywhere and anywhere. So, nothing like today. Like I said, before Leicester came on board, we were jumping from facility to facility, just like any other grassroots club. Like if it rained, you can't train because pitches were flooded and games were getting postponed. Everybody's like trying to get their hours and their slots on 3G and 4G facilities, which is obviously not many of them across the county. So, I mean, when I first started, it was in a car park. Literally, girls were training in trainers in a car park. With, do you remember like the old school orange lights at night time? So we're literally using that as our floodlights back in the day. So it's great though, because it's humbling. It's an experience where I think I'm very fortunate. I think I'm one if not only the only coach right now in the women's game that's been through all the levels. I think to get from amateur, grassroots to semi-pro to elite level. And I think for me, it definitely made me a better coach because I didn't become one of the coaches that are divas and expect everything, which I don't think you should do in the women's game just yet, because it's still growing and you've got to work hard to get the success still there. And I think from that point of view, we've been very proud as a family. And I think it got dubbed the Morgan Dynasty at one point, which was something we were proud of. And it's just nice to know that we've done something for so many girls in and around Leicester and Leicestershire.
It's great to think that probably without you and your family, and as I said when we chatted before we went live, maybe should have called it Morgan United. It's not a bad name to be associated with Leicester, is it, Morgan?
No, it's obviously there's something with the name Morgan that does great things for the club. So obviously you got Wes Morgan as the men's captain back in the day, and obviously as the Morgans, and it seems to be obviously success that's synonymous with the name. But I think obviously we're very proud of that, and like I say, it's definitely we've had it with trials and tribulations, and we've had our problems and our issues, and we've had to go through a lot of issues. And sometimes some of the issues from a family point of view, we weren't sure where they were coming from or what were people's agendas as well. And if we look back, I could happily say that there's probably some, I don't know, maybe some discrimination over the years as well, which happens. But do you know what? It made us stronger. And now we look at the team, and obviously Jade, my sister's still the general manager at Leicester City. My dad, Rohan, still a very key member of the women's board at Leicester City. And it shows you that for us, it was more than just us as a family. It was the fact that we really believed in developing the women's game.
Was there 2 women's teams? Was the Leicester City ladies?
Yes.
And they were nothing to do with you, though?
No. I think obviously Leicester City Ladies were just another local team. So when I first started, we were both at the same level. We were both grassroots. They were just another, in my opinion, another great setup that obviously worked tremendously hard to do what they do right now as well. And they do so much for local young girls too. So it's nice that there was this, well, back then it was really used to as the main 2 teams, and probably with OB and Wigston as well as teams that really had real good development for youth. And I think it's really nice now to see that as teams we've pioneered so many other teams to be able to follow in our path, and now you see there's so many girls setups across the county.
I excuse me, I know, because I've moved all around. I left Leicester when I was 21, which was many years ago. And I've moved all around. I've kind of settled down now on just outside Bournemouth on the south coast. But I actually, my local team, if you like, and I'm a big, obviously, Leicester fan, as you can probably see. The clues are there. It's when they have a delivery and they look and they go, "Oh, you support Leicester then?" No,
just collect it for the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. I like the colour, But no, I mean, my local team's Poole Town. And I couldn't go and watch Bournemouth because to me it was like having an affair. My team, but with Poole, where they were, and I was just cut out of, if heard of Charlie Austin, obviously. be good. He was like in his last season, and it was such a different atmosphere. You know, it's this ground because they hadn't got a proper ground, so they're on a school playing field they built a bit of a stand and what have you. They won the title for 3 years and couldn't get promoted.
Yeah,
but you'd be stood behind the goal, and the chairman and the owner would be stood next to you.
Yeah,
in a way, and so I used to. I don't go anymore because obviously now, you know, I'm sort of doing all this with Leicester, so it takes the time up. But it's just a great feeling at that level, isn't it? It's something. It's what football should be about.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really important at the lower levels, and something that we captured very much so on the women's side going through the leagues, is you've got to capture that sense of community. And for me, the biggest way of capturing that community is by the leaders of the team and the leaders of the club being very much apparent and available to be seen, and showing that they're prepared to get in and down and dirty with for the club and get in and amongst the fans. And I think that way people see it as more of a like, you're one of us, rather than you're just here to run a club and you don't care about anyone else.
Yeah. And I mean, then along came, you know, you saw the sort of, obviously the owners coming in, you know, Vichai and Top, rest in peace, Vichai. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the surname, but you saw them come in, buy out the Leicester team, what have you. And how did then the takeover of the Leicester City Women's happen?
To be fair, like, it was something that, like, we were very much independent as a family in this Leicester City Women's, but we always knew that we were never gonna. If we went to Super League, we would have just bankrupted ourselves. It was just that was our ceiling. Myself and my dad, we put a lot of investment in it from our business. We have a development, like a land agency company called Spring Rock, which put a lot of money into it for the championship. But at the same time, obviously, you've got a family and you've got kids and grandkids. It couldn't all go there, and unfortunately, the women's game wasn't moving fast enough for us, if that makes sense, to really build on investment. So we'd spoken to Leicester a number of times, especially around the promotion to the championship, and there was a number of conversations that myself and my dad had with the likes of Susan Whelan to get them on board at some point. And basically, then it just became a matter of time, rather. It wasn't like an if; it was just a matter of when, and we just made sure we did it in the right way to make sure that when the transfer happened, it was done at the right time for everybody.
Yes. And I mean, obviously, then it all changed, and you got Beaver Drive. You also now they play, you know, the KP, and it's on the telly, which is great to sort of see, and Sky have come on board. But I mean, that season, and I was sort of looking at it, and I did make some notes, believe it or not. I mean, that season when you got promoted, you only lost 2 games all season. I mean, that was better than Leicester when they won the Premier League. They lost 3. You know, you scored 54 goals. You only let 16 in, 50 points, and of course, at the end of it, you were manager of the season. Yeah, I mean. That must. I can remember when we won the Premiership. When the lads team won the Premier. It's a great feeling that when we got promotion, and I mean, you must have loved that season.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different year because of COVID, and that took obviously precedent over everything. And obviously, it was a shame that we couldn't capitalise on the momentum we had in front of the fans and things like that. I mean, COVID brought a lot of challenges, and if I'm honest, whilst we won, and that was just through sheer grit and determination from us as a setup, the staff and the players, like, I wouldn't have chosen to transition to full time during a pandemic ever again.
Not the best time.
Because it just brought up challenges that, like, we were transitioning to full time, and then challenges that has challenges in itself, and then to have a pandemic on top of it just made it a lot harder. And keeping everyone happy and keeping everyone mentally sane was a very difficult challenge for myself as a manager. And I think, in all honesty, that took more of my time than even the coaching, because I had like a responsibility to the players who had moved to Leicester, who couldn't go back and see family, that they could like rely on someone to talk to and things like that. So from that point of view, it was a really surreal year. But from obviously the football side, obviously, like, I'm not going to say it was all rosy behind the scenes, because when you're looking to win a league, it never is. Some people are happy, some people are upset, some people want to get in on the action, not everyone gets to play and stuff. had to upset a lot of girls over the years, because you have to be really honest to them when you're in the championship battle. But it was a very, very proud moment for everybody involved, and I think that what people forget as well is that we set a championship record. We're the only team we've won the most games in a row. We had 12 wins on the bounce.
Right, yeah.
So we took over Man U's record of that, and we did that with a far less budget than Manchester United as well. So that's something that we'll be proud of as well. But it never seems to get mentioned, that one.
They never do, does it?
No.
You know, this is Leicester, not Man United.
Exactly.
Just say a quick hello to Anthony. He is an Arsenal fan, but apart from that, he is nice. Yeah, Arsenal women. Yeah, we won't talk about them. We won't talk about Arsenal women, or Chelsea for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at the teams that were in the league that time. I mean, and at the moment, we've seen just recently a couple of sort of not so good results for the women. But you beat, and I love you for this. If I love you for nothing else, it's the fact that you beat Coventry United 9-1.
Yeah.
I was there and I watched us beat live. I was at the ground at St Mary's when the boys' team beat Southampton 9-0. But the fact that it's Coventry, big up to you.
Yeah, local derby. I think. Do you know what? The girls were just really up for the game and everything. It was like, without bringing back to it, it's a little bit like our Chelsea were against Leicester a couple of weeks ago. Just everything went in, and we were ruthless, we were clinical. Everything that we worked on worked basically. And, And for us, it was a real big statement in the league. I think that's when the girls started to believe, well, I think we are cut above the rest of this level, and we obviously continued pushing, and obviously the rest is history.
Yes, yeah, and just to show, I'll just bring this up here, just to show you there with the trophy, looking very very proud. It looks. You sure that's not the Europa League trophy? It looks a bit.
It's a very similar shape, isn't it?
It is. Can't you just slip it in and say like, oh, this is the Europa League one? No, but I won't tell if you won't.
I'll tell my next employers that I won the Europa League over there.
Exactly. I'll back you up. Obviously, when I say with the takeover going through and the winning the Conference League, there was big changes going on at the club. And was that hard to handle as well?
Not really. I think what it is that you have to go into a different mindset. It's all about adapting. Obviously, we went back. We started to go into the corporate world of football, whereas forever for us it was just a family world, and everyone that knew it was a very much a community, well-being, and self-driven type environment for everybody involved. I think, like you said, I don't think COVID helped that transition, because people weren't at work, you couldn't see people face to face, things like that, so you couldn't really build rapport. So you didn't really get the opportunity to create relationships with people internally at the club. Which obviously would have made a big difference, I think, if it was like a normal day from that point of view. But at the end of the day, you just go in and I just, from a coaching football point of view, just exactly what I kept doing before. Stuck to my philosophy, stuck to my ways, and did what I thought was right and what I believed in from a football coaching point of view. And like you said, but obviously very, very disappointed that I didn't get the chance to see out this season, because if I'm honest, I think we would still be in the same situation we are now. I don't think much would have changed from that point of view. I just think that I got all the job of the WSL, really getting the girls transition to be a WSL team, and then not getting the fortunate run of games that happened, like playing the likes of Birmingham and stuff. That I think the points there would have been the same for me from that point of view. So, but that's the ruthless side of football, isn't it? And
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, it is. Like you say, I mean, in football, it happens. I mean, I suppose it's never nice being told, but I've always wondered this, and I'm sorry for asking this, but as you brought it up, when how nice is it? I mean, how nice are they when a football club says thank you very much? We want somebody new in. I mean, it's never going to be nice, but. Did you kind of get the feeling it was going to happen? Did you, when you got that call saying come and see us?
You sort of to be honest, you know from quite a while in advance Like you just get the feeling, and like everyone says it, don't they? Like managers always say they sort of see it coming. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, everything was amicable and respectful, and like the reality is Leicester were the ones paying the wages, and they have every single right to go in a different direction they see fit to get the best value for their money. Naturally, like I said, we had a very, very open and honest conversation, which obviously remains like private between the two parties, but it was a very fair conversation between both sides, and nothing was left in terms of like in a negative way or a nasty way or a sad way, if that makes sense. It was just just
that's good.
disappointing.
I mean, that's good. I mean, you always look at these things. They all look nice on the telly, and you wonder whether they're really behind the scenes. I won't ask you to comment on that. But yes, I mean, you had taken the club up, and I'd say that fantastic season. You've been manager of the season, and then it's a big step up. I mean, they say it's a big step up from the Championship to the Premier League. But when I look at how, Leicester's results, and I think, like you say, whoever had been in charge, I think the gulf just seems absolutely massive.
It was huge. Like, in all honesty, I think that was the downside of it. Obviously, no one in the setup had WSL experience, which was the thing to sort of say, look, this is the jump. I think if I got back in that situation again, as horrible as this sounds, you wouldn't be as loyal to as many people for the next level. I think my sort of kindness and my fondness of people got the better of me from that point of view. And obviously, you want to keep a core of people because you want to keep the same. You want to sort of build on what you've done, but I think the harsh reality is on the men's side, even like you said, the Championship to the Premier League is a big jump, but you're still going up in it with a squad who've got like people who've been professional for 10 years.
Yes.
Whereas in the women's side at the minute, when you go up for the first time, like I say, my girls only had half a year, 3/4 of a year max professional.
Yes.
And then you're playing against girls who've been pros for 10 years and stuff. Like, you don't make that gap up. It's impossible. It's as simple as that. So I think that was obviously a learning curve for me, like, because it will happen for me again. I will get another club and I will do the same thing again. And that's what I'm going to do. So, but I think
you've learned by what, like you say, I mean, I can see totally what you mean. I mean, at that level, and like I say, the lower leagues, I mean, I see it, Paul, you've come up as almost like a family, if you like.
Yeah.
And I don't, not I don't mean the fact that there was, your sister and everybody involved.
No, like the club,
the club, it felt like a family to you, and you've been running it, owning it, and then suddenly, it's like a little corner shop being taken over by, an Asda or a Morrison's.
Well,
you want to be loyal, but like you say, it's difficult sometimes because maybe you should be doing something else.
Yeah, and like you say, like my relationships with the players, like I like to think they were very positive, and obviously that doesn't necessarily help you because that makes things harder. But I think, like I said, like I alluded to earlier, up until the day obviously I got released by Leicester, whilst all the statistics were showing that we were getting much more competitive and going in the right way, which was fantastic. I basically, my whole time in the WSL was trying to transition girls to be professional WSL players. And I think if I go back in that time, I would have got much more recognised players, established players, rather than giving the girls the opportunity, because fundamentally that was a demise of the team. And again, like I say, whilst I'm proud that I did get them to be competitive, and I think by the time my last couple of games, we were actually the better teams playing. We just couldn't get the look of the green. I knew that. I said to Leicester, I guarantee you January will be the month where everything comes together for us, and it did. So I think the problem was I didn't give myself any time because I had to transition girls, and that's obviously something that again you learn from, and you won't make those mistakes twice, will you?
No, you would hope not. Although I don't know. When you look at some of the managers in the men's game, you often ask yourself, you haven't changed, you haven't learned anything. Good into Rennie. Thanks a lot for popping in, Rennie. How are you? And I mean, is there a big sort of, I say, the money gap between the Championship and the Premier League? Is there that sort of? I mean, I know obviously women's football's still starting out, but is there a big gap financially?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at the top four, for example, like the Man U, Man Cities, the Chelseas, and the Arsenals, and the women's side, they are in a different league from a financial point of view. It's so evident. Yeah. It's from a player recruitment point of view, they can go and spend and get the best, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, and rightly so with Leicester City, they're not going to go and give us a top 3 budget when we first come up and stuff like that. And those things take time. But again, it's whether I think for a lot of clubs, and I must admit, I will exclude Leicester from this, but I still think there's a lot of clubs in the WSL that are just given just enough to get by, and not really meaning it. Whereas at least with Leicester, they're showing that they're putting their money where their mouth is in different ways, and they're trying to build it in a way where it's a little bit more sustainable, which I think is brilliant. So, but I think the problem is, I think a lot of clubs are just happy to be there but not to compete. So I think that's the problem at the minute.
I was just trying to work out then, because it's obviously a 22-game league. And I was just trying to work out whether Birmingham could actually catch us or not. I think they can, unfortunately, but they'd have to win all 4 and we'd have to lose all of ours.
Yeah,
but which I can't see happening looking at the season that Birmingham have had.
Yeah,
I mean, this time, I mean, do Leicester? Because I'm just looking at them there. Do they have a playoff or something? Because I just thought it was one that went down. I'm just looking at the lines on Sky, and they've got Leicester under a line as well.
As far as I'm aware, it's just the one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I don't think so at all. Yeah. I think one comes up, one goes down. So it might just be Sky might just got that one wrong, I'm afraid. I'll let them know next time I'm on.
It's because it's Leicester, you see. Again, if it's one of their favourite teams, I'm sure they wouldn't have done that. I didn't say that. I didn't really say that. I mean, it is all about staying up this season, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean,
that must have been the goal. Must have been to finish 11th, and anything after that would be a bonus.
Yeah, I think it's just staying up and consolidating. I think it's just 2 years worth of staying up, to be honest. Like, it's really like, then you get to year 3 and then you've adjusted, then you've acclimatized to that level, then you know what it's all about. So I'll assume it'll be the same for next season as well.
Yeah. And I mean, women's football in general. I mean, funnily enough, the Lionesses are playing tonight. England Lionesses are playing Macedonia. If you watch him, Brad, he's one of my co-presenters on here, and he's a big fan of North Macedonia.
Yeah, a bit Italy.
Let me rephrase that. So he was a drunken fan of North Macedonia in the Euros.
Yeah.
It has come a long way, and it's nice to see on that. And do you think it was going to go from strength to strength?
Yeah, of course. Like, I think when you got teams like Leicester City, for example, doing what they're doing, and the reality is at some point people will follow the leaders in the lead. And I think it will go from strength to strength. I think obviously Sky is obviously great because give it more coverage. And it's not for the current set of fans that anyone's bothered about, because we know we've got those current set of fans. We know that we've got our fan base. It allows the coverage for people who don't really think about the women's game, who like on a Sunday at 6:30 when there's no men's football, and then all of a sudden there's a women's game on, and you think, might as well watch that for a bit, because it just gets in just generic football fans too. And people with an open mind. People always asking me about it, and I have a lot of friends who say, like, what are your thoughts on the game? They ask me, and I said, well, look, if you want to compare them to men's, you're gonna it's like you're comparing apples and oranges. I said, as simple as that. Yeah. So oranges taste one way, apples taste another way. And I said, you need to like look at the women's game for what it is and what its pros are and the qualities it has. And that's what I said. So, and when you can break down that mental barrier, I think that's the nicest way to put it. I think then you will start to appreciate that it's actually a very good game with some very, very strong individuals in there and some very, very talented individuals in there. So
I can remember before it was PS pre-Southgate at the England team, and we weren't doing that well. And I remember watching an England game, and obviously that was very much in its infancy in those days. And I watched it and I thought, bloody hell, it's better than the men's. It's good place. And the officials, tell you what, there's no hassle, no stick, no arguing. no VAR either. But,
Yeah,
but,
I think the argument the officials are changing a little bit.
Yeah,
I think.
I guess it would.
Yeah, but I think that's more down to the fact that there's more pressure down the women's game. So officials' decisions are now starting to mean more. Whereas in the past it was just about winning or losing. Whereas now it's about, do you keep your jobs? Do you keep a player? Do you need to get rid of a player? Do you get rid of a manager? So that pressure is coming into the game naturally with more money and more coverage.
And I noticed as well, I mean, to say that Leicester are a team, like you said, 11th in the top flight, I think there was, I'm just looking at it now, eight Foxes called up for women's international. So the future looks bright.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for as long as I can remember, and I'm glad that it's continuing, because I put in a very, very strong platform and a very, very strong foundation for the youth. And I think that we actually, so 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, I had completely separated our youth setup from the FA pathways because I felt that those pathways weren't producing players, and in all honesty, I felt the pathways were very, very biased to certain types of players as well. There was definitely a socio-economic issue within the pathway as well, and we created our own youth setup, which allowed more inner city players to come forward. We knocked down the socio-economic background and barriers to allow more players to play, and so then we weren't then technically a registered youth setup by the FA, and we were just seen as like a typical, even up to this year in the WSL, we're not seen as a registered youth setup. We're actually seen as a grassroots setup, even though we're in WSL, because we don't actually have the FA affiliation in terms of their stuff. In as you're seeing, we're producing more England girls than ever before. So for me, you got to ask the question, are those pathways working to the true potential, or are we limiting the pathways? And I'm very proud that I've got a lot of stick for it, a lot of stick, if that makes sense, to go in a different direction. Yeah. But I think we're the only well, not so much now, because I think they've done the same thing, but for about 2 years, we were the only non-affiliated FA pathway that they were still picking young lionesses from.
Oh, that's great. And I think, anybody that's watching this and anybody who, is following the women, and I know the support's getting bigger and bigger. I see that in the Facebook groups and everything. And I've got to say, the thanks have got to be down to yourself and your family for where, you took the club from, and where they wouldn't be where they are now if it wasn't for you. And I think, for that, as Leicester fans, we thank you. But just finally, what does the future hold for Jonathan Morgan on the football side?
To be honest, at the minute, I don't really know. So, I just being honest, when I left Leicester, I had a real sort of long, hard look at myself, in the sense that, yes, confidence was knocked a little bit, because and there was a little bit of disappointment, because obviously I felt I would have kept them up and things like that. But then I started to look at myself on the personal side. And like I said, I've got a young son, I've got a second child on the way, and I actually started to realise that. Oh, thank you, appreciate that. But I went to, I believe it was the Thursday I got released, and then I went to watch my son play rugby on the Sunday. And then me and him were talking. Obviously, part of this was because of COVID as well, but it was over 3 years since I was able to watch him play a match. Wow. Because all my matches basically clashed with his rugby games. And I took it, and to be fair, I'm really happy that it happened, because it took away all the disappointment of leaving Leicester, because I thought, bloody hell, you come out the bubble and there's more to life. And I spoke to him, and now me and my son, we do things like scuba diving together. We go, we just do so much more stuff together. Do you know what I mean? We go to the gym together. Obviously,
and I totally get where you're coming from, but you suddenly remember, I've got a son.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Well, you just remember there's more to you. Even my friends, I spoke to my friends, and they were like Morgs. Obviously, they all call me Morgs as my nickname, and they're like, do you know what? I used to I had to go miss birthday parties and nights out, because I would. So let's say it was my friend's birthday on a Saturday. I said, I can't come because I've got a game on a Sunday, or we could be traveling, or I'm not going to come because I have a couple of drinks. I won't feel good for the day, and things like that. So you realise that actually you sacrifice a lot for football, and that was really nice. So, and again, that was a learning curve that I wanted as well. So when I do have, because I will come back into football, that's 100%. But it will allow me to be much more balanced this time around and think about everything. So I mean, I've got back into my land because I don't know if people know, but like I said, I've hit my land business quite heavy since I've gone, which is obviously nice to have something to fall back on. But
Yeah,
there are a few things in the fire. I had an offer over in California, which I declined because it was just a 1 year offer, which every part of me wanted to
give
say
them my
yes.
number. Give them my
Yeah.
number. No,
Like-
it's hard when you got the family, isn't it? Because again, it's not like you're just going down the road and you can come back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is in the women's game, I'm like, Leicester was obviously a perfect thing for me. I'm born and bred in Leicester, I live in Leicester. I'm from bloody Glen Parva, as a lad, you know what I mean? So, like, going to Beaver Drive was like 2 minutes down the road for me. Going to King Power was 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
I think that's the only other thing that probably think, like the next opportunity, I'm gonna have to travel, and it's things like that. But what
not
I will be looking
as far
for
as California, though.
No, yeah. Like I said, I spoke to my partner, Faye, and I was like, every part of me wanted to go to it, but we both agreed that 1 year is just not enough to get up and travel to the country. But what I can say to you, like, I've spoken to a few teams. There's one team in particular that I have very good conversations with. And for me, it's not about the league, it's not about the level, it's about the project in the women's game. Like, the reality is, like, I'm not going to get a WSL job at this moment in time because I didn't get a chance to prove myself in WSL, which is just the way it goes. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not going to jump into a championship team that have been there forever and show no ambition, because there's a lot of women's teams, in my opinion, that still do that. So it'll be a team that want to invest in the women's game and that want to have a coach such as myself who's quite like ambitious. And I do think I'm quite like a pioneer for the women's game because of what I've done. So I think that who find will both be very lucky for each other, because that means for me they will tick my boxes to show true ambition and that they want to go forward. And for them, I think I don't mind saying, but I think I'm a very good coach and that I've done very well from scratch. So
look at your history. Do you know what I mean? All the promotions,
exactly.
It speaks for itself. And I know it probably would suit you sort of journey wise, but please, if you offer the Coventry position, please think about it. I know with a lot of people it's Forest and Derby, but for me it's Coventry, men, women, whatever,
Like I say, like if it's going to be if it's going to get me, because like I said, I do Milan stuff, and that's very good for me. So if I'm going to go into a club, it's got to be someone or something that is a club that shows true ambition and have true backing. That's the most important part. So
it's got to really excite you as a project.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like my friends have been asking me, other people, and goes like, "What are you gonna look?" I said, like, I'll be honest with you, like, I don't mind whether they're in the Championship, the Northern Prem, bloody Midlands Division 1 again. Like I said, as long as that club will show me a process of that they're going to invest and back, like, because the reality is, if you get the right club that can back it, you can get back-to-back promotions overnight, and that's still the way the women's game is. So you just got to find that club.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, like I say, on behalf of Leicester fans everywhere, men and women, thank you so much for everything you did for the club, of getting it where you did and getting us into that top league. And it was unfortunate you couldn't see that through, but like you're saying, that's football, I guess, these days, isn't it?
No, definitely. But
and whatever you do, as long as it's not Coventry, I can't wish you luck with Coventry, but anywhere else, whatever you do, I wish you all the best. And thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And really enjoyed it. So, but thanks for that, mate. And have a good evening. And
you as well. Thank you very much. Take care and all the best to your family.
No, it's you too. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks very much to Jonathan there. It's great. I mean, I didn't realise when I started. I mean, I do, because I have a gentleman who posts a lot of things for me and into the Facebook group. And I've got to be honest with you, I do. That was sort of kind of the extent of my knowledge of the women's game. But looking in today at the history for this show, I mean, and what a nice gentleman he was, Jonathan. There, he did, and his family did so much for the club, and it was a shame that he had to go. Just as it was sort of when Claudio had to go. We were bottom of the league, but if we can stay up and we can build on it. Like with Nigel Pearson, a lot of credit has got to go to him. And like I say, on behalf of Leicester fans everywhere, thank you very much to Jonathan. And I'll say thank you very much to you too for listening and watching. If you are watching on YouTube, please give us a subscribe. It is very much appreciated. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, Leicester Till I Die, thank you very much for listening. That's just going from strength to strength. Catch me at 9 o'clock on Turf Moorhouse TV. We'll be popping over there to do the prediction show. And will I predict a Burnley win? There's another game that's a little bit Burnley Norwich or Manchester City Liverpool. Yeah, I think I know. Joking, Dan. I'll see you at 9, and we are going to be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock with the Crystal Palace review. We'll be looking at the Crystal Palace game. So thanks so much, guys. Have a good night. Here's to the Leicester win as well if I don't see you. And remember, stay safe, and whatever you do, don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Kind of leaves it open. Thanks so much. Good night. Take care.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.